Look, I've changed my outfit. I have on a raincoat. Oh, we got a little surprise video this morning. Just gonna lay here. Seton Tucker is coming on here in a minute. Let's see, make sure it's on. Seton, where are you? Honor, what are you doing? I've just taken my first Wellbutrin pill. How about me? Yes. I don't know if it's working yet. Do I look thinner? Hey guys. Hey Carrie, Jennifer, Pammy. Okay, Seton, I hope you're coming on. I didn't tell. She just said, are we talking? Because I was like, yes, we're going to talk. So last night, we're going to talk a little bit this morning about the Murdaugh family in South Carolina. Sorry, my nose is itchy. And Honor, honey, I can't have you hitting me. You're good. And last night, so Stephen Smith, who's somebody involved in that, his mother was on Anderson Cooper. Almost didn't recognize you. Thank you, Renee. I prefer, instead of a mask, I like a neck mask. Hey, Marcia. So we've got some new folks. So some people might be like, who are the Murdaughs? The Murdaughs are a family in South Carolina, and there was a bad boat accident. Oh, how was Russell's point going to do? We'll get to that. There was a bad boat accident, and the son, Paul Murdaugh, was driving the boat. Well, then, and a girl died on the boat. So then that's sort of a story. Well, then, I don't know, 6 months later, Paul and his mother are murdered, and the dad finds them at this farm they have in South Carolina called Moselle. Well, this fall, the dad says somebody shot at him. Well, come to find out, he staged a shooting of himself. It was weird. Seton said she needs 5 minutes. That's perfect. And let me text her back and tell her. That gives us a little time. So anyway, now when they investigated this murder at Moselle, where Paul, who was driving the boat, and his mother are murdered, they open up this other investigation that happened into this boy named Stephen Smith. Young, gay man, older boy who had graduated from high school, and he was found in the road, dead, and they were like, well, it was a hit and run. Well, there was no sign that there was a car injury, so then you're like, well, what happened to him? Well, last night, Stephen's mother was on Anderson Cooper. But Seton did this great episode last week. Hi, Sam. Hi, Melanie. And it was on this other couple that went missing, and that's what she's going to tell us a little bit about down in Charleston. So this other couple goes missing, and they have never been found, and there's some connections between them and the Murdaughs in terms of finances. I think Sophia's still asleep. Hey, Trina. How's Russell? So Russell is good. We went to Duke yesterday. Russell is coming along fine, according to Duke, so that was good. Maybe it's just me, but I had no idea that this recovery was so big. And I know they didn't tell me that. He should be in the brace for another 4 weeks. I think the whole time I've been like, when's the brace come off? No brace come off. He was like, it was a really big surgery, even though you look at the incision. Hey, Lynn. So 4 more weeks of driving to physical therapy and school. You need to watch Inventing Anna. Oh, I'm watching Inventing Anna this weekend. Mary is taking Amos to the beach for the weekend. We have off on Monday. I'm super excited. Sophia woke up. Adrian is going to rest, try to get good sleep. She is durmiendo. Yeah. Hola, Sophia. And maybe work a little bit on the Tails Invasion weekend, which I won't talk about every video because I realize it's super annoying for people not coming. Just creates FOMO, fear of missing out. Hello from Michigan. We have about 160 people signed up, though. It's going to be, it's so good. Her noise is annoying. Oh, inventing Anna. So I watched that on like Dateline. This Anna, what was her name? Anna something. And Anna like pretended to be a German heiress and stole money from a bunch of people. It's so clever. Like, I wish I had been that creative, because now she can like make money on doing that. So neat. Y'all look outside. Let me try to sit up. Look at the sky. It's very dark. And look over there. Ooh. But I think the rain has already moved out. Anna Delvey. I kept wanting to say Anna Selke. Where I'm getting that from. 160. Too people-y for me. Well, I mean, it's not like it's going to be 160 people that you have to sit on the couch with. It's going to be a good weekend. I'm changing some things, altering some things around. Going to have sort of a hospitality center downtown. So if you come by yourself, you can always pop in there and find people. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. Hey, from Alexandria. Chloe. Hey. Her real name is Sorokin. Yes, I remember that. So last night, I talked to my son Thomas. And if any... What? So my Carla is my housekeeper, and that's Sophia, who's 2 and 3 months. Real funny. I talked to, so if you're my subscriber and you know Thomas, you say anything about this, I'll kill you. So little Thomas, but I mean, I'm so excited, and I don't dare write a thing about it on my blog. That's the problem. Hi, Eileen. He had a date. My 16-year-old has had his first date. And I was suspicious because the last 2 weekends, I've been like, why don't we come see you? And he's like, no, I'm real busy. Like, why is he busy? Okay. Well, you know why he's busy? Because he had a date. So the first weekend, hold on, Carla knows where the meds are. Oh, I found them. They were in the medicine cabinet. I just didn't recognize the name. Seton's coming. Hi.
Hi.
I was just telling my my people about my 16-year-old had his first date.
Ooh, that's exciting.
And it was exciting. I had noticed this charge on his debit card. You know, he gets an allowance, and when he works, he puts his money in there. And I was like, you had this meal that was like $92. What? I mean, it's your money, but what was that about? He was like, well, I had to pay, you know, he's vague. And I was like, okay. Well, that was an initial double date that he then paid for because he made his friend go with him. But then he took this girl to a movie, and he was like, I mean, do you know how expensive it is to go to a movie? It's $14 up here. He was like, I don't have any money. I said, well, and then I said, did you ever get your tennis shoes? You got birthday money to buy the tennis shoes you wanted? Well, I just got some on eBay. They're too expensive. He said, I'm working 2 jobs this summer. I mean, I've got to do something else. I was like, good.
Dating's expensive.
Yeah, I said, girls don't need expensive stuff. You can like go to a museum in DC. Like, you don't feel like you have to wine and dine her. Like, you know, hang out with your friends, take the metro somewhere. Anyway, it was funny.
Picnic in the park.
So this is Seton Tucker over here. We'll talk more about Thomas's dating life later, since I'm not allowed to write about it. And I put the link of your newest podcast in there. So tell us, and I've given them kind of the backstory of the Murdaughs, if they're not familiar. Tell us about your latest podcast and how that relates to what's going on.
Yes, and we actually have one coming out today, so I'll talk about that after.
Oh, good. Okay.
But we did there's not a whole lot going on with the Murdaughs right now. No new information has come out about the deaths of Maggie and Paul or the investigation into Gloria Satterfield, who was their housekeeper, her death, or Stephen Smith, who was a young man who was found dead in the middle of the road, whose death was reopened after bagging Paul's. No new information on any of the criminal stuff has come out. There's been some legal stuff that's happening, and we've, lots of new, more missing money. But I think people are kind of, so we kind of thought, let's do something different. So we talk about a case of a Hilton Head couple that went missing in 2008 named the Calverts. And it's interesting because it kind of ties in a few different ways. Corey Fleming, the person that they think was responsible for the death and possibly killed, they've now been legally ruled dead, was their accountant. His name was Dennis Gerwig. And when all of this came to light, and he's now dead, he committed suicide, but there are a lot of questions about the suicide because it was a very unusual suicide. But before we get to that, let me tell you the connections. So the connection, we have the attorney who was hired to represent the accountant Dennis was Corey Fleming. And Corey Fleming, we know from this, he was the attorney who initially represented the Satterfields, also Connor Cook, who was one of the, if you're not familiar with it, there was a boating accident. Connor Cook was one of the boaters involved in this accident, and when a young girl was killed. So he was originally sent to Corey to help him by Alec Murdaugh, which now he has a new attorney. Corey Fleming has been suspended from practicing law. But anyway, it was just interesting that he was the attorney hired by Dennis to represent him.
Did he know he had been suspended from practicing law?
Yeah, he's been suspended for a while.
And now Corey is attached to these people that are missing that we assume are dead.
Right, because he was hired. Well, he was hired to represent Dennis, the one who the police believe was responsible for the missing, the disappearance of the Calverts.
Right. Okay.
He didn't have that much. He was only maybe represented him for a week or two before he was found dead, before Dennis was found dead. So he really wasn't that involved in the case, but it is a connection. But the other connection that's really interesting is the 14th Circuit solicitor, whose name is Duffy Stone. He was a friend of Dennis. And Duffy Stone was also, he was the person who replaced Randolph Murdaugh when he stepped down from being the solicitor. Duffy was the person who stepped up, and Alec Murdaugh worked with Duffy because he was a volunteer prosecutor. And so he worked with Duffy in that capacity.
And Duffy and the man that they believe killed this couple were friends.
Right. Yes. So Duffy was friends with Dennis Gerwig, and actually he was the one who identified Dennis's body after his suicide.
So this couple, tell us the couple and the what their last night was like.
Okay, so this couple, they owned some properties and some boat slips in Seton, and they had hired this company to manage their properties and boat slips. And so Dennis Gerwig was in charge of their finances. Well, so Liz Calvert, she was a smart.
Dennis a CPA?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
So okay. Dennis was hired by John and Liz Calvert to manage their stuff. Liz they had lived in Atlanta. She was a smart cookie. She was a lawyer. She worked her way up with UPS, and she became, the head of the department. And then in its early 50s, John kind of took a semi-retirement and moved down to Hilton Head. They still maintained their house in Atlanta, but he moved down to Hilton Head and lived on a yacht in Hilton Head. Now, she took a job with a private law firm in Savannah. So she kind of split time between Savannah and Hilton Head and Atlanta. And he was between Atlanta and Harbor Town, where he lived in the yacht. He was a big boater. That was right up his alley. He loved living. So Liz kind of discovered that there was some missing money. She was questioning. There were several meetings that she had with Dennis, questioning about her. And apparently their interaction, there was somewhat contentious. She describes in that there was an email where he had sent Dennis had sent to a friend of his where he refers to Liz as the Viper. So clearly there was some sort of contention between the so the night of their death, they were scheduled to go meet with Dennis. And he was the last person to see them alive. So quickly he became a suspect. They had a meeting, I think it
with them.
What's that?
Did they meet with them that night?
Well, there's no real proof of that. Now, their offices were in Seton Center, which Seton Center is obviously in Seton's plantation, and it's kind of about a mile away from Harbortown, which is where their yacht was. And their office, Seton Center is, there's several Giuseppe's Pizza, Truffles Restaurant. There's a jewelry store that's been there forever. It's so the first level is retail. And I think the fitness center for Seton's is there as well. The second level, there are offices. So his office was on the second level. But, this is a pretty, it was off season, but it's still, it's a pretty public location. So according to Dennis, what he tells police is, I think their meeting was scheduled. Don't quote me on the times because I don't have my notes with me. But I think their meeting was scheduled for like 5:30, and John got there at 5:15, and he met with him. Liz got there. I know I have my times off, but
so Dennis.
What's that?
Dennis said they met.
Dennis said they met. He said John arrived about 15 minutes before his wife Liz arrived. Then Liz arrived, and then what Dennis says is 15 minutes after they left, Liz said, we need to go. Then Dennis says he, goes back. He stayed at the office for another 10, 15 minutes. Then he took the business route, the longer way home, goes home, has some wine, cooks some dinner. Then he goes back. He had cut himself. He claims he cut himself on a bottle of wine on his hand. And he, on his way back to the office, maybe at, I think 10 o'clock at night or 10 or 11 at night, he stops by CVS to get some bandages, and then goes into the office, stays there till like 12. And then he goes home. But there was video. So there were some inconsistencies in his story. There was some video of him stopping at CVS, not after he went home for dinner, but on his way home.
Oh.
So much earlier. So before he had dinner and cut his hand on the bottle.
Right.
He was stopping
to get Band-Aid in case he cut his hand later.
Right. Exactly. He didn't take the long way home because there was video. He took the Cross Island Expressway. So there's video. So he didn't go home the way he said either. So those two things jumped out initially, that his story wasn't adding up. So he quickly kind of became a suspect because of these things.
Right.
But there's a lot of questions of, could he have done this on his own? Or he was never convicted. He was found dead. He committed suicide, but the manner of suicide was very unusual.
So he talked to the police, and didn't he kind of towards the end say, I'm not talking to y'all anymore?
Well, Corey Fleming advised him not to talk to him. Corey Fleming, he did talk to them, and then once he hired Corey Fleming, because originally he was just working with his lawyers that he had worked with on the island before, but they weren't criminal lawyers. So they referred him to Corey Fleming, and Corey Fleming, he was supposed to talk to the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, and they were like, nope. Corey's like, nope, he's not talking anymore.
Oh.
But it was weird.
Oh.
So police found no forensic evidence. Police found no forensic evidence in the office. They searched the cars. They searched his house. There was no forensic evidence whatsoever that was found.
And no sign of the people.
No sign of the people have never been found. No sign, no forensic evidence.
And they have no children. So where were there was something about their cars. Where were their cars?
Yeah. Well, before we said, the other thing that was odd that night was he turned off his phone for a period of 11 hours. So, there was that. But also, their phones were turned off maybe, 30 minutes before. So the Calvert's phones were also turned off. So that was kind of interesting. Her car was found. No, Dennis says that he saw Liz's car in the parking lot of Seton Center when he left. But we don't know if that's true or not, but her car was found in a parking lot in Harbortown, which is only about a mile away. But John Calvert's car was found at the Marriott Hotel in Palmetto Dunes. So
was there video of any of these cars being dropped off or left or anything?
there's no video of car, and there's no taxi cab records of anybody come.
What year that they went missing?
2008.
2008. Okay. So the question is, did he do it? Did he do it? Which I think he certainly had a part in it. Let's just be honest. Did he do it alone? Was it part of a bigger something happening?
Well,
and why his death is really weird because it points to there's more involved in the story.
Yes. Yeah, because he had some connections. He was kind of, he had a couple of different girlfriends. He had one girlfriend that he owned a house in Columbia, South Carolina with, that he dated like for 20 years. And she lived in the house in Columbia. They apparently had kind of broken up, but she still lived in the house and he still paid the bills. He was also involved with another woman named Laura Merrill, and she was married, but he would pay her for her time away from her family, and they would go on trips together. But her husband, so when she gave her statement to the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, her husband was there with her. He was aware of this situation. So that was obviously very strange.
Did she admit, did she say, "Oh, I'm just his assistant," or did she say, "We have a relationship"?
She was said that they were in a relationship and he would pay her for time away, and she was an exotic dancer. Yeah, and they also had some connections to another exotic dancer who was Russian and ended up getting deported back to Russia.
Oh.
So there was definitely some very strange things going on, and he had some connections. He was involved in selling some vehicles or vehicles back to Russia. It's very strange. And a lot of people don't believe that Dennis committed suicide. A lot of locals do not believe that.
In which it's kind of hard to believe. Tell them about, so Dennis, they say Dennis committed suicide. Tell them about what happened around that deal.
He was staying in one of their rental properties, which was actually right across the street from Seton Center, which it's named Swallowtail. And I know exactly this because when I was young, we used to sneak into the pool and the hot tub there.
Hang on. We're talking about a couple that went missing years ago in South Carolina, and the link to the Murdaughs. And this fellow who they last met with, they think, well, did he have something to do with it? Well, then he comes up dead 2 weeks later because he committed suicide. And Seton is telling us a little bit about this suicide scenario and why it doesn't appear to be suicide to me.
The suicide was just really strange. And again, there was no blood outside of the bathroom. He was not staying in his home because his home had recently been searched, and he was a neat freak, and there was they had ransacked the house during the search. So he was staying at Swallowtail, which was a rental property owned right across the street from Seton Center. And so, but when he was found, there were a couple things that were very strange. He was found in the bathtub, like on a comforter, but his head was not, it was facing towards the
Faucet.
So that was very strange. And he died he had a lot of Benadryl in his system, enough that would kill most people. He had taken a lot of Benadryl, but his cause of death was stabbing. He stabbed himself a whole bunch of times, like long, really weird stabbing.
Was the comforter did it look like maybe somebody, but you said there was no blood in the bedroom or anywhere?
No, there was only blood. The bathroom was apparently, there was blood spatter everywhere. It was apparently very gruesome scenes. And we've actually requested all of the records from Beaufort County Sheriff's Department. We have to pay $70 for that, but we're going to do it.
Oh, good. So, yeah, just to get in a bathtub the wrong way sounds so uncomfortable to me.
I mean, he was on so much Benadryl, so probably is pretty groggy, but again, there was no blood outside, but he stabbed himself. There were multiple, 6-inch, most people, some people slit their wrists or do that sort of thing, but it was also just a very unusual.
No, that's weird.
Right. A lot of people don't believe, people who knew him don't believe that it was possible that he would have killed himself.
So there were no prints on the knife but his?
No prints, not even his.
Well then, okay. Well then, this is a dumb conversation. Clearly, he didn't kill himself, or there would have been his prints on the knife.
Well, they said it was like, I mean, I have to go back and read it, but they said that the knife, like, it was something about the handle having, serrated. I think it was a steak knife from, I mean, first of all, it wasn't even sharp. It was a steak knife.
No, I'm just going to go ahead. Adrian, the investigator, is ruling that out. He was murdered. There. Good. That's done.
But whoever did it did not leave any evidence, and there was no blood outside of whoever did it. If he wasn't, did not commit suicide, really.
They were professionals, and I think they were the same people that helped murder that couple.
Well, okay, so this was also another little interesting thing about it. So when they did search his house, they found a holster but no gun. Well, there was another friend of his who was a platonic friend that still lives in Hilton Head. She had moved from Colorado to Hilton Head a long time ago, and she had a gun from her grandfather, which was like an old antique. I think it was a 21 or 22, whatever. So she had traveled with this gun for security when she traveled across country. So when she had young children, she was not comfortable having the gun in her house. So Dennis told her they would, talk frequently and then have dinner every once in a while. Dennis told her, oh, give me the gun. I know somebody who deals with antiques in Colombia. They might be interested in the gun. So she never thought about it. She just got rid of the gun, and it was old. It didn't have a serial number or anything else. But she told police that she thinks that holster could have been from the same gun. The gun was never found. But the gun that was used is apparently a gun that's used by a lot of hitmen, because it was 21 or 22. It doesn't leave blood splatter. You have to hold it straight up to a head to kill somebody, but you can't use, he bought tarps. That's the other thing. He bought tarps, which were the day before, which were never accounted for. Also, when he stopped at CVS to purchase the Band-Aids, he purchased that with a credit card. It was timestamped. It was on the video at CVS. But then he went back in to CVS and he purchased some latex gloves with cash. The latex gloves and the drop cloths were never found.
This is like one of those pick-a-path books where you're trying to figure out what happened. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, somebody must have helped him. He's not a professional. Murder these people because they realized what was happening. And then maybe they were worried that Dennis was going to rat them out. So they just went ahead and killed Dennis because they had to keep their tracks clear. But then you wonder, well, who's behind it all?
Well,
is it the mob, the drug smugglers? Is it?
We don't really know where the money went. If we know where the money went, then we'd get more answers. So that information has never really been released, as where is the money trail. It's the same thing with the deaths of Maggie and Paul. There's all this missing money, and we don't know where this money went.
Right, and it just didn't go to Alex's drug habit.
I mean, there's no way now. I think there's $20 million, millions of dollars. I mean, that can't be possible.
I wonder if the reason you're not hearing news or this case is so slow is because they are really working hard and probably having to use like incredible investigators like the FBI to look at this in the part of this huge picture that is still very secretive. I mean, those kind of cases can take years, years and years to break where you wouldn't even know anything yet, Because if it were cut and dry, we would already know, I think.
But, I mean, we still have, so our episode today, we had Riley Benson on, and we're releasing probably in the next hour or two. He's young. I don't even know how old he looks, like he's 12. I mean, he's a very young reporter, but he was one of the first ones on the scene after all were dead. So we talked to him about that. It was really, really interesting. He was on the Oxygen special with us, and he said he drew the short straw that day. They were like, who wants to drive to Hampton? And nobody wanted to drive to Hampton from Charleston. But so they sent him. So he tells that story. And he also, this week, we talked to him. There was some legal stuff that that went on. There were supposed to be on Monday, Valentine's Day, there were supposed to be a bunch of hearings related to different Murdaugh stuff. And most of it went away except for one. There was a bunch of Satterfield stuff that was supposed to be heard. There was a motion to dismiss Bank of America, another motion. I don't have my notes in front of me. There was a motion filed by Eric Bland because he'd been talking a lot, and they were, I guess they were questioning whether he could get a fair trial. But all of those, they worked out a deal because Alec's attorneys dropped the motion to gag, and Eric had filed a list of sentence against the property at Moselle and the beach house that was owned by Maggie's estate in Edisto. So and Bank of America dropped their stuff. So I think everybody is working out deals in that. The only one we actually heard, there was a motion to strike some language. So the attorney represent Alec through his insurance company had filed a motion to strike some language in the complaint that was filed by Connor Cook's attorneys. And they said it was salacious and scandalous. So a lot of it was about Maggie and Alec, condoning Paul's behavior and let drink and that sort of thing. But Nicola won. They said that's going to come out in the hearing anyway. So he actually won the motion.
Wow.
But we go into it better in the podcast because I would have my notes. So you should listen to the.
Well, we will. Tell me about, so when this murder happened, obviously he's down there, stumbles upon it. Did they actually let reporters at the scene of a murder?
No, you are outside. Like he was at the gate of Moselle. Like
Okay.
he let you on. So he said he saw them leave and go back and forth, but he said it was, quiet scene and nobody was talking to them, but it was kind of eerie.
Oh.
Moselle went up for sale this week too.
Yes, I saw that, but I didn't get the details. But it's already been sold, basically, right?
So the broker told Riley that they had an offer, and they had several other offers. So I don't think it's officially been sold, but they have offers.
Okay, but it never even formally went up for sale until they had offers.
No, it didn't. When they said, I guess all the attorneys agreed back in January that it could be sold because it's the top of the market. It makes sense to sell it now because it's the top of the market and price. And I don't money
go when it sells.
Well, the receivers who are appointed by the court to control Alec's money, they can determine how that money can be sold. But I believe that they will just hold that money till this is all worked out. But the thing about it is there's so many different people who have lawsuits against it. There's not, the money's going to dry up at some point. I don't think there's.
Well, it's like Bernie Madoff, he just ruined so many people. And then I guess they took the money and kind of doled it out, maybe in percentages of what you lost or something. So It wasn't like everybody got their money, but it was like, okay, well, you had 10%, yours was smaller, so you're going to get 5%, it just was based on a ratio kind of basis. Does Buster have any money from his dad, or does he have access to money, or is he on his own now?
Still has not been probated about what's going to happen because Maggie's estate has not been probated, and she owned the Moselle property. She also owned the Edisto Beach House. So we don't know exactly how that's going to happen. When we talked to our legal analyst, he said actually Alec could say, I don't want Moselle. It could go to Buster.
Really? How?
There's something to do with South Carolina law. You can actually turn down an inheritance.
Oh, so then nobody would get their money back and Buster would get it.
Could happen.
Wow.
But Buster's also sued himself in all of the cases related to the boating accident because he allegedly gave his brother his fake ID. And actually,
Mhm.
remaining two boat passengers, Miley Altman and Morgan Doty, they filed lawsuits this past week, which was just shortly before the statutes of limitation ran from the 2019 boating accident.
Okay. Yeah, you have 3 years. Huh. That is so interesting. Well, and how much did they pay for Moselle? Wasn't it like $10 or something?
Yeah, it was really weird. It was owned by Barrett Buller, and he just
Like
kind of,
legit.
yeah, he just gave it to him. It's very questionable exactly how they came about it. I mean, he just paid a little bit of money for it, but I don't know. Somehow,
But then you wonder, did they pay him on the side in a different way?
yeah, we don't know. And Barrett
Why would
Buller,
anybody sell a property literally for like pocket change?
right, or whether they had, I mean, I think they had,
Parent or trying to help you, you know?
yeah. And he
Huh.
died. He died shortly after, and I think Alec had a power of attorney over him. It's just it's very strange.
He died shortly after. Be
Of
interesting to
cancer. He was legitimately sick.
right.
Not
It'd be interesting though to talk to his descendants if he has any.
his. Yeah, it would be. But I did send his wife a message, and she never responded.
I wonder if his children would. If he has children.
His son died. So his son died, and his son died like shortly after. I don't quote me on all this because I don't have notes in front of me. But his son died like both the dad and the son were both died shortly.
Within the same time frame.
Yeah, within a couple of years of each other.
Oh. Yeah, that's weird. That'd be so curious to know. Okay, so move on and tell us about, is it true that Buster, let's see, is it true that Buster dates a lady who's an attorney, female lawyer for all female lawyer firm in her Hilton Head?
I did read that. I don't have any real confirmation. I know that his girlfriend is from Rock Hill, and that's why Buster was in Rock Hill. And I mean, probably, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago, I know she was living in Rock Hill, but she could have gone to Hilton Head. I mean, I saw that report that she was, but again, I don't really have real confirmation of that.
All I can think about is and it's nothing against Buster, could be totally, innocent in this whole deal. I mean, let's be honest, we don't know. But I'm just saying, all I can think about is my dad. If I had started dating Buster and all this was happening, he'd be like, "Have you lost your mind? You're not getting involved in all this." I mean, you might as well to move in with the cartel because one of them is nice. I mean, he would be like, "No." You're funny. Okay, so tell us. I did not watch Anderson Cooper because I was putting Amos to bed. Tell us about Sandy Smith on Anderson Cooper last night.
Right, so I watched it this morning because I was actually out last night. I have some friends. We play dice once a month, so I was out playing dice. So, what's that?
I didn't know dice was a game.
Well, it's called LCR. Like, it's very mindless. You have 3 dices, and you would play with $10, and you pass it right, and ends up with the big. So it's a $10 night. But it's fine. We've been playing for.
Nice.
So I watched it this morning, and it was shorter than what I thought. It was only 6 minutes long, and
they always fool you with that. That's what that one other did. You're like, "Oh, John Walsh," when he was doing something for me. I was like, "Yes," and it was like 8 seconds. I was like, "No." Anyway.
It was on CNN. Obviously, what I've said all along is the more national coverage, the better, that these things can't get swept under the rug. But Sandy Smith was on there. She did a fantastic job telling the stories. Not anything real new, just kind of a recap of Stephen Smith's story, and that she didn't believe that he was killed by a truck hitting. Her attorney was also on. But what I did think was really interesting is she talks about Randy Murdaugh, who is Alec's brother,
Mhm.
offered to represent the family after Stephen was found dead and help investigate, and that Randy contacted them multiple times and was requesting their phone and his phone and his iPad and stuff like that. So I thought that was probably the most interesting thing that came out of that interview.
Wait, say that again. So Alec's brother is representing someone.
He called, so after Stephen was found dead,
Okay,
Randy Murdaugh, who is Alec's brother, contacted Stephen's dad and offered to
like,
represent them and help investigate what.
like 4 hours or something.
She didn't say the time, but she did just said that, she said before they even saw Stephen's body. So she says
So,
before,
okay,
quickly.
Jen said, right, yeah,
He was quickly contacted, but the thing that was he contacted them multiple times, and he was requesting Stephen's phone and iPad.
And did they ever hire him or no?
No, I don't think so.
So he was like, I want to help you, and go ahead and give me the phone and the iPad so I can erase all sorts of naughty stuff on there that's implicating my family, probably. That's what I think. Huh. So Randy has got his mouth shut too, right? He's still working.
No,
He's
not talking. We have not heard from either Randy or John Marvin since, they were on Good Morning America, way back when, right after Maggie and Paul were found murdered. But we have not heard from them since that time.
Boy, I bet he was shatting in his pants last night listening to her talk about that.
You would think that he would be, I don't know. Does he watch it, or does he just not? Does he turn away?
Oh, no. They watch. I mean, even the little old tiny Adrian, if I do a video about somebody, they pretend they don't watch. Like, they'll email you and be like, act like they don't know who you are. And then later the person will be like, you hurt their feet. Anyway, yesterday in Wilmington, the superintendent emailed me back. And it was like, he had no idea who I was. He just answered the question. And I was like, sort of like, God, I can't even like bother him. It kind of annoyed me. Well, then I hear from another person, a school board member, and she's like, your show is killing us, and you're this and you're that. And so she basically like let the cat out of the bag that he was like pretending that he was fine, but he was really worked up. My goal, right? Yeah.
So funny. There's so much, like, obviously drama surrounding there's nothing information. So we talked to Riley about this a little bit, all the gossip rumors and people just going crazy. But it was on the way to school as I was driving my daughter to school this morning. I have this Taylor Swift thing that's been going on in my head since I started this thing. I was, last week it was, you need to calm down. This week it was Taylor Swift and Chris Stapleton, who I absolutely love. And it was, I bet you think about me. I think you got that right.
Yeah, I bet you think about me. So yeah, I bet he was watching thinking, crap, that was bad. Anyway, well, it just sounds very professional to me, the whole thing. If there weren't fingerprints, like, in the house, clearly somebody had on gloves. There should have been something somewhere with that suicide, some sort of forensic evidence.
Yeah, it was very unusual. I can't wait to get all of the documents from the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department and look into it more, because we mostly all good feedback about it. Some people didn't like it. Somebody wrote on our Apple podcast, you should be embarrassed of that issue. I was like, what?
Why?
I don't know why.
I really liked it personally. I think it's an interesting. I love a missing person case, and I think the clear connection, whether how deep it runs, we don't know, is worth.
I'm not in any way insinuating that the Murdaughs were anyway involved in the Calvert's disappearance.
Yeah.
But I just thought it's the same area. We've got the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department. We've got some players involved. Right. I just thought it was an interesting thing, because obviously we can't talk about the Murdaughs when there's no new information coming out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you want to be talking about something. No, I thought it was totally dead on. you've got large amounts of money missing. You've got rich people, and they know each other. I mean,
And
what if
same area.
Adrian goes missing? Not that she's rich, and then Mary Scott does something else. I hope somebody would be like, Adrian went missing and Mary Scott's gone. Like, what the hell's happening around here? You know?
Well, and I mean, the Calverts, from all the things that I read, were just like outstanding people. Like, they just, I think, were uncovering stuff that was not supposed to be uncovered, and that's what led to their deaths, because there's no evidence at all that they were involved in anything nefarious.
And let's be honest, if he were going to commit suicide, like, I would love to look at the research of how people, and not commit suicide. So somebody taught me about this lately. I don't know if you've heard this, is that it is died by suicide, because the word commit has this kind of like committed murder, committed a crime.
I
And
saw that. I have, yes. In the police reports, it says died by suicide. So that's interesting. I didn't know why it said that.
yeah, it's been an interesting, I like learning things like that. I'm not always quick to be like, well, you can't say that anymore. But I have really liked that, because it sort of takes away the stigma of suicide too, I think.
Yeah, I'm
And
glad that. I wish I would have known that before I recorded that episode, because
oh, well, sorry. I mean, clearly, it just like you've said it 10 times, and I have too, and it just hit me like, oh, I forgot I'm not supposed to be saying that.
I didn't know. I learned something new today, so I'm actually going to. That's very interesting. I'm going to start referring to suicide as died by suicide instead of committed suicide.
But I would be interested to know how many suicides have been like that gory, that terrible. But let's be honest, if the guy had a gun and he was going to commit suicide, why would you would never choose to stab yourself repeatedly?
No, and there's been some
going to die by suicide. I can tell you, Adrienne ain't stabbing herself with a knife.
Well, it was interesting. So I read a book called Deceit, Death, Deception. There's a link on our Facebook page, which is Murdaugh Podcast. And it was a really good book, and they talk about that. Like, they have a forensics person who basically says in the book that that's not, that's highly unusual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's some other research I've seen, like, women don't usually hang themselves. Like, it's happened enough that they can kind of look at what is more, not, you hate to say traditional, but these discussions, of like, yeah, that's not quite right. Huh. That's interesting. Well, I thought it was great, and I think your next one sounds like it's going to be really good too.
Now, he was really interesting. I like our episode that we put out today, and then we have another one that we have coming up where we talk to a South Carolina coroner, which is super interesting, and I didn't realize that state by state, the coroners, the regulations are so different. Every state is different.
Well, I think I knew that, but different how?
Just up until, I think she said 2006, there was no real requirement to be a coroner. It's an elected position in South Carolina, but there was no, I could become the coroner, but it's not like that anymore. You have to have some sort of medical credentials now. But up until 2006, like our coroner in York County, South Carolina, she was a forensic nurse, and that's an acceptable qualification. They're not the ones who do the autopsies. That's the medical examiner. And that's not an elected position.
Well, that's good.
No, not an elected position. But it was interesting. It was interesting conversation about how they go about, because we're dealing with a lot of coroners with all this Murdaugh mess. So it was just kind of an interesting Q&A with her that we talk about in our episode that we'll release next week.
And do you think Alec will ever come out and talk to anybody?
No. I don't.
No.
I mean, maybe 10 years down the line after he's been. I think the biggest threat with Alec getting out of jail, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get $7 million to get himself out of jail. I think he will stay in jail. What's that?
I think the biggest threat, not to interrupt you, but is that somebody else might kill him.
Or that he might have a death by suicide.
Uh-huh. Well, I think if he wanted to do that, he'd have done that already when he pretended to.
Shoot himself when he had the murder-suicide plot.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. I don't think he was planning to die by suicide at that point. I think he was just trying to create some sort of diversion from what was happening.
I have mixed feelings on that because I do feel like he did what I think he really sustained some injuries. I don't know. But he wasn't doing it himself. I mean, most people, I mean, I guess he's just saying he was not brave enough to do it himself. He wanted somebody else to do it for him, but
you think he was really going to do it? Huh.
I don't know. Again, I'm 50-50. People ask me that all the time. They also ask me who I think killed Maggie and Paul. And I just respond, I know about as much as you do. Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would be shocked. You know, I always think someday, maybe it's after you die, you get to see all the answers of the stuff you wondered. I would be, and I mean, I clearly get surprised all the time. I would be very surprised if, like, that couple missing, Stephen Smith, Maggie and Paul, if none of it was related. We were like, oh, we were all wrong. Like, no. It's just where there's smoke, there's fire. There are just too many little burning stations to not be connected, you know? And there's somebody out there with a big old Bic, like a lighter. I mean, there's just so much to the story that we don't know, I think. I mean, all that money, I mean, it's just, and the fact that he was writing checks to the person that we thought was nice, and then we were wrong, obviously, remember?
Yeah.
Like,
Eddie Smith's attorney, not ever since his interview on, what was that? Was that on, it wasn't on was it Good Morning America or Today Show? One of those shows. Morning show.
It was
He just went and said he's the nicest guy. And then the very next week, we're like, oh, maybe he had a little bit more connection.
But what did Cousin Eddie do with 1.8 million? Like, I saw Cousin Eddie's house.
That's a good question. Where again, this is the whole thing with all this. Where is this money?
Like, I want to get in Cousin Eddie's bank account. Like, I bet the people, this makes you, like, want to start a second career in, like, law enforcement or investigation, because they are probably like pigs in slop looking at this stuff. It's so complicated. It's like playing the longest game of Monopoly of their lives. I mean, it is, or Clue or something. I mean, can you imagine if you had access to all the evidence?
Well, I think the people who are going to solve this crime are the forensic accountants. We had one on our podcast, which I loved that episode. And I'm like, those are going to be the people who solve this.
Yeah, yeah. I find it so, not to take away from the terrible things that happen, but I bet it's so freaking complicated. Anyway, it is just, I wish that somebody from Maggie's family would come out and talk. But you know, South Carolina is like where I live. Ain't nobody going to be the one to talk to a news agency or go on Anderson Cooper and then have all their friends shun them, you know, at reunion weekend.
We have really worked hard, and I've
but honestly, I would think would want to talk.
Somebody on just a random, somebody sent me, I don't really ever go on Reddit, but somebody sent me a Reddit message where somebody was upset at the depictions that Maggie has been receiving, and that she was a friend and knew her as a, you know, great her, and just to describe a nice person. And so someone sent me that. So I reached out to that person on Reddit and just said, hey, you know, I'd love to talk to you on or off the record. I haven't heard back. That was just yesterday.
Okay.
But, you know, and I have some other connections of people who know people who know people. But again, nobody's wanting to be the one to talk out. I mean, there's been people who will go and say negative things. There was some negative stuff that came out, but none of her friends are really coming out.
Yeah.
Love to talk to people, whether
it's off tacky. That's like the epitome of tacky.
I mean, I just think poor poor person who can't really defend themselves, you know, anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard as, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, well, I'm a loudmouth, but I think if it were my sister, I don't know. Maybe they're just heartbroken and grieving. Maybe they're trying to figure out, what did she know? Like, we don't want to talk and say the wrong thing. We don't want to hurt Buster. You know, we just better
Well,
keep our mouth.
my sources have told me that her parents' health has declined since this has taken a turn.
Right.
So I think her parents, but also, you know, they've probably been advised not to speak out, but they're also not coming out and saying they're supporting their former son-in-law. They're not saying that either.
Yeah. They're not saying nothing about nothing.
I speaks more than them.
Maybe silence loud. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and then you wonder, like, are they seeing Buster? Are they sending him birthday cards? Is he going to stay with them for the weekend? You know, what's happening?
You just keep seeing Buster, you know, being with John Marvin, his uncle. We've seen that a few times, but we don't know other than, and you know, I've also tried to kind of steer away from Buster a little bit just because
it's just not.
it's
not.
he hasn't been, you know, he's been accused of giving his fake ID, but that's really the only thing he's been accused of. Now they mentioned in the report last night, you know, they talk about Buster's name coming up multiple times in the investigation of Stephen Smith's death. So, I mean, if he had something to do with that, of course. But right now, I'm just kind of like, he's lost his mom, lost his dad. I don't know.
Charge thing. Yeah, just let. Right. I think that's smart too. Well, I will look forward to hearing your newest episode. Missed talking to you.
Yeah, it was good to catch up.
I know. I'm gonna.
Is your son gonna go on a second date? That's the question with this girl.
What?
Is your son
it's my son. Another date. Well, I don't know. So she's in a musical this weekend, and you know he hadn't wanted us to come up there because he's real busy, which now I know why. And I said, "Oh, are you going to the musical?" And his roommate is in it too. And he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go." And I said, "Well, are you gonna take her or anything?" I said, "Not that you need to. You know, like I don't want to push him to feel like he has to like date." And he said, "Well, I thought I'd tell her congratulations." I said, "Well, that sounds like a good plan." I said, "Are her parents going to be there?" He was like, "I don't know."
Probably.
No, I don't want to meet her parents. Oh, yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, that's a big step.
She's in the 9th grade, so I'm sure the parents don't want to meet him either.
Yeah, I bet so.
Plenty of time to date through the years, so we're not encouraging it. But you know, he's 16, and that's normal to navigate some of that. So that was a fun.
My 17-year-old he woke up on Valentine's Day, and he said, "I need to borrow your car because his car was in the shop because I need to go to Harris Teeter and buy some flowers." So he calls me from Harris Teeter. It's like woke up at 6. So I thought that was pretty impressive. And he was like, "What kind of flowers?" I'm like, "Well, you know, roses are kind of what people usually give for Valentine's. But I mean, I think anything's fine." It's like, they don't have anything like that here. They're all sold out. So I was like, "Well, I think I saw some mugs with like some candy in it and like maybe a little balloon. Maybe you should go for that." So that's what he went for.
Good. It is so, yeah, it's so cute. Okay.
Thought about the Valentine's Day gift on Valentine's Day.
Yes. Okay, so Seton, are you coming to the subscriber weekend?
I have to look at my calendar. I would love to try to come to the subscriber weekend. I just need to look and see if I can make it work.
It's May the 20th.
Okay, I'm going to look at my calendar and see if I can try to work this out.
Well, you would be a special guest because you can keep us all informed. So
I don't know about that.
please come. We have about, I don't know, 170 people signed up in 2 days.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
It's good, but Eaton not too big. I got to go work on our venues today.
Well, good luck. I can't wait. I will try to make it. I just have to look at my calendar to see what we've got. I don't know what, you know, I've always loved to go to concerts. And so, you know, didn't over COVID.
A lot of concerts, right.
And sudden I have 4 concerts coming up. So I have to make sure it's not on one of my concert days. I know. I'm like,
I know. I think people are just, I think honestly, the reason there seem to be a lot of people coming is people are like, I have been sitting in the house for 2 years doing nothing.
oh,
But I'll say, looking at like the price of stuff, you know, I know the grocery store is expensive, but holy cow, the price of everything has gone up like a ton when you start looking at like, oh, a caterer, oh, a this, a that. You're like,
food prices
what?
to get there.
It's really, anyway, I could tell. Okay, carry on, people. I think tomorrow, we're going to be talking to Angela, subscribers only, on Sunday. I think afternoon, she's going to be talking to us about intermittent fasting.
Oh, I need that. I haven't been on the scale in a solid 6 months, and I'm scared to get on there.
Oh,
Because
last week she said you should scale every day unless you have like a eating disorder.
Really should get on the scale every day. I used to do that, and then I haven't been. And today I do like the Stitch Fix because I hate to shop. So I got my Stitch Fix order, and apparently I need to go up a size.
Little tight. Well, I just started my Wellbutrin today, so that's sort of exciting. Though I'm feeling hungry, so I don't know if it's working.
Oh, well, hopefully. Wait, Wellbutrin is supposed to give you appetite. It's supposed to make your appetite not.
Yeah, it makes you less hungry and not smoke.
Oh, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I know. It's not working though, but I just took it like an hour ago.
Yeah, you need to give it some time.
Need a little bit of time. And then I think Saturday, we'll do something Saturday. We'll do a little subscriber video Saturday night. I'm going to make my husband do a video this weekend who says he's going hog hunting. But anyway, hog hunting. We can't even talk about that.
Heard those wild boars are mean.
Oh yeah. Oh, he goes down to South Carolina and does it in Darlington every year.
I used to babysit for some people way back when, and they had one of those hogs over their mantle. It was scary. They had horns and stuff. Scary.
It's terrible. Yes. Oh, it's bad. He doesn't even like killing things. He just likes going and hanging out with people and drinking.
Yeah, well, that sounds fun too. I not killed something, but I mean, I'm not opposed to people who do. If they, especially like a lot of my husband's family, like they'll hunt the deer and then they'll process it and they'll give us like the deer meat and stuff, which is venison. I like it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's good. But I like skeet shooting. That's a fun thing to do. We joined a skeet shooting club.
My children and husband do that. I've never done that.
It is really fun. We did it on the girls' weekend a few years ago, and then it's really fun. Apparently my sons are really good at it because video gaming translates into being good at it.
Well, that makes sense. Well, we have a crossbow, which my son Russell really likes. So the crossbow is what they use for duck hunting, all sorts of stuff, which is kind of neat not to use a gun. I mean, it's just
that's the most humane.
Yeah, it's sort of and they love to the target is out on my porch right now. They love to just get out and shoot things. So anyway.
Well, have a good one.
Y'all too.
I have a half day, so I think my daughter will be walking in any moment.
And good.
But
seriously, saying, what are we gonna eat? Okay. Talk to you later. Thanks, Seton.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I'm watching 5 deer from my window just now. Are you gonna eat them? So this is what am I doing? Okay. So tomorrow, I think we'll do something at night tomorrow. And I might tune in and just say hey in the morning. But we'll definitely do a subscriber thing at night, and then Angela will be Sunday afternoon. This week is, I guess I'll be taking Russell to physical therapy, driving to school. That's about to kill me. I need to clean out my garage. I have 20 turkeys and get ready for the Tails Invader weekend. Seton did have, you need to go back and watch it, Beth. It was pretty good. I didn't tell y'all we were coming on because I texted her late last night, and then when she responded this morning, I forgot. Watch Inventing Anna. Okay, maybe we could talk about Inventing Anna. I need deets on that yellow jacket. So this yellow jacket is Patagonia, and it was 75% off. I love yellow in general, like yellow. Yes, Thomas will either be in the morning or tomorrow night. I'm guessing tomorrow night because tomorrow morning he's really into tennis. Maybe when he gets back from tennis. So I'll try to shoot for him tomorrow night at like 8-ish. So anyway, but this jacket, you're like, yes, it's great. It is the thinnest jacket on the planet, and I don't know if it does a lick of anything for water. I didn't have on a bra, so it seemed like a wonderful thing to wear to drop off at school. I know, I love yellow too. Not yellow clothes, because I look ridiculous, but like yellow, there's some yellow shoes. Oh, yellow Dansko clogs downtown at the shoe store. Ooh, I'm going to make a list when people come visit, not to keep talking about when y'all come to visit, but of all my favorite places to go. So many good stores downtown. I mean, legit, you can go downtown and like spend money. Not that you need to spend money, but I do. Yeah, it's very cheery. 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 You can stop traffic. Exactly. That's exactly right. Barbara, yellow clothes make me look jaundiced. I do look like I'm sort of a unusual yellowy tan kidney color. And then the movie came out and ruined it for me. What movie? What movie ruined the yellow raincoat? Well, don't even tell me. You know, we were supposed to have storms today, but I think they did come last night. It's not raining, but it's kind of, can you see? Overcast out there. And it was super windy. I have my meeting with Angela this Tuesday. Yay! Well, we'll see if my Wellbutrin kicks in. I got the prescription, then it took me a week to figure out where it was. Gordon Fisher. You know, last night I was thinking, I want to watch The Perfect Storm again. I've really got a hankering to sit down and watch some movies. I feel so hungry. I thought this medicine, like, it's making me hungry, and I had a piece of toast with it. Damn it. Stormy in the UK, Sam and Kate said. Blair said again today, when are our cousins from England coming? They said in the Christmas card they want to come. Why haven't you invited them? I was like, they know they're invited anytime. You don't have to invite cousins from England. I wouldn't think they had to invite me. I'd just be like, okay, we're going to come. When can we get there? We're having our 800 blizzard in Minnesota. Oh, gosh. If the supporters weekend provides a lot of revenue for the town will be trying to get you to do them more often. Can you eat some raw veggies? Marilyn, I gained weight on Wellbutrin. Oh my God, Marilyn, I hate you. I cannot believe you just said that. Just kidding. You know, the town will probably be like, all her people took up the hotel rooms. The great thing that it's May, which I'm sure, but May is a nice time to do things. If we were doing it a more random weekend, I could have gotten the caterer I wanted and the venue I wanted. Like, we're going to have to make do a little bit, but hello, welcome to life. I'm Robin so-and-so, Life of the Rich and Famous. Who's that? I love that show. Life. But I think it will be fun. And if you're not here, you're going to still get to buy the t-shirt, and we're going to do lots of live videos. Paul and Mary Scott will be doing live videos from their phones. It is going to be a subscriber bonanza. My daughter's high school graduation. Oh my God, you cannot not do that, Melissa. How long does it take for a cease and desist letter to arrive? Usually about a week. Robin Beach. Yes, Robin Beach. I'm glad you're excited though, Melissa. Whenever I get one, I do a video and read them out loud. I just prefer to go ahead and make a big fuss. I need to come. Well, come on, Jen. Get your fanny down here. It's going to be fun. Y'all better get a hotel room if you haven't got one if you're coming, because they're going to run out. And then y'all ain't staying with me. You would know about the letters. I haven't gotten a letter. Secret password. I'm a medium. I've got to go. Oh, you just reminded me. I need to go put my chili in the freezer. You can read a cease and desist letter? Heck yeah, if you think there's no, if you don't think there's any substance to it. Whenever I get them, they're just like meant to scare you. Dr. Faust will love me sharing it. People do not like to be, and I don't like to publicly shame people. It might seem like I do, but I would much rather work out problems behind the scenes. New Univer County is asking for it. Not all of them, but there are people that are complicit in it, and the people that are doing the right thing are like, go for it, because we need help. So I'm in. Okay, tune in later, taters. I'll put up some stuff about the weekend details, and I'll be making a shirt.